guys, my name is Avery. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new, I'm so glad that you're here. So also welcome to the new background. I literally just got this set up today. I am obsessed with it. This is just a few of my books because God knows I have way too many. I found this bookshelf in our laundry room and I was like, okay, yeah, definitely I need that, because as someone whose books are pretty much all packed away in moving boxes for just like personal reasons, this was really exciting for me because I obviously want to have a cute little background for you guys. And so I'm really excited to actually be able to display some of my books now. And for this video, we are going to be talking about all the books that I read in April, my ratings. Of course, this will be a spoiler-free reading wrap-up for April. I actually only have 2 physical copies of the books that I read this month because I was in a massive reading slump for the first half of April, which is why I didn't read as many books this month as I usually do. But I also read most of these books on my phone via Apple Books, and so I can't like actually hold them up, but I'll talk about them, of course, give you my thoughts, opinions, of course, spoiler-free, and I'm really excited. Let me know if you guys have read any of these books in the comments because I'd love to get your opinions on them too. We can, just chat, a little fellow book bestie discussion, a friendly discussion, of course. Constructive criticism is always welcome, but yeah. So for the first 2 books, I'll just start out with the physical copies I have in my hand. Alright, so the first book that I read this month was The Wolf and the Woodsman by Ava Reed, and I ended up giving this book, I believe, 3 stars on Goodreads. I initially had it at 4, but whenever I really sat back and thought about this book and really got into my opinions about it, I realized it's more of a 3-star than 4, and so, but it's really like a 3.5 because I don't even know how to pronounce the world that this book takes place in, so I'm not even gonna try. But basically, it's a fantasy book where this girl named Avik, I don't know how to pronounce it totally, maybe it's Avike, I'm not totally sure. If you do know, please let me know in the comments how to pronounce this. But there's this girl named Avik, and she lives in this village with the fellow wolf girls, and these wolf girls all have different magical abilities, not in the sense of like wizards or anything, but some of them can forge silver out of nothing, they can have fire abilities out of nothing, and then there was one other ability in here. Oh, healers. So there's basically 3 main powers, I believe from memory. And Avik was actually one of the only wolf girls in this village that wasn't born with any magical abilities, and so because of that, she's kind of an outcast. And she is pretty much alone because her mother was taken from her at a very young age. I think she was around 15 or younger, by the woodsmen. And the woodsmen are from the kingdom that surround the village, that basically once every year or once every couple of years, I'm not too sure, they come and they take one wolf girl back to their palace, and no one knows what happens to the wolf girls. No one ever sees them again. They pretty much kind of just assume that they die or they meet a fate worse than death, but it's definitely not good because every time the woodsmen do come, they're always very violent, very aggressive, and so pretty much everyone hates them. And as they should, because they're literally kidnapping their sisters and daughters and whatnot. But that is pretty much the premise of the book. So basically, this story follows Avik, and the woodsmen come and they need a wolf girl, but because they need a seer. Oh yeah, that's another ability, seers, to see into the future, but they're super rare in their village. They only have 2, and one of them is a young girl around Avik's age, but because they don't know what the seers look like and they desperately need one, the village actually tries to trick the woodsman by sending Avik in her place instead. And so basically, Avik is kind of forced powerless into this world of being taken by the woodsman, and then we get to explore her journey as she goes to the kingdom. She's trying to find out what happens to the wolf girls because she's really smart and she wants to figure out a way that she can save herself, but she is not really getting any answers. But then one of the woodsmen, actually the head woodsman, what's his name again? And basically the story follows Avik through that journey of getting to the kingdom, trying to find out some answers, and she is alongside a woodsman named Gaspar. Again, I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm sure I'm pronouncing it wrong, but they kind of have a little enemies to lovers situation going on. But I don't know. This book was all right. It was really interesting at the start for me, and the one thing I will say about it is I absolutely love the writing. Ava Reed's writing is beautiful. It's kind of lyrical if you're into that. It kind of reads like descriptive, beautiful poetry song. I don't really know what I'm trying to say, but it's very lyrical, very beautiful, and so I really loved the writing, which is why I think I was initially at a 4 stars, because I was just really engrossed in the writing, not as much as the story or the characters, although I definitely grew to have a little appreciation for these characters by the end of the book. I did want what was best for them. I just didn't really find it super interesting. The middle part was definitely a little bit boring in my personal opinion, and because of that, it's more of a 3-star, maybe 3.5 at the highest. But yes, this was the first book that I read. Now, for the second book that I read in April, I was actually starting a little reread-a-thon of the Percy Jackson series, and so I read the first book after finishing The Wolf and the Woodsman. Of course, that whole series for me is a 5 stars, but especially the first book. I just love it so much. I unfortunately didn't get into Percy Jackson until way later in life because I actually don't really know why. I just never got into it as like a middle schooler, which is technically the targeted demographic for the book. And I love it as an adult. I'm almost 19 and I still eat it up every single time I reread it. It's just so nostalgic. Like these characters, the found family trope that is in this series, if you haven't read it, it is so incredible. Like Annabeth Grover and Percy, literally, oh, I just love them so much. And if you don't know the story of Percy Jackson, which I'm sure that you do, if you haven't even read it, you probably know the story. But basically there is this kid named Percy who turns out to be a demigod, which is whenever a mortal and a god, like a Greek god, have a baby together and they're not supposed to anymore with certain gods. And he gets taken on a journey to this camp called Camp Half-Blood, where the demigods kind of gather because they're more in danger than regular humans. Like monsters kind of are attracted to their scent, and the demigod scent, and so they're sent to this camp for the summer. And Percy's just kind of learning this. His mom's telling him because he doesn't know who his dad is and he's very overwhelmed. He has a hard time believing her, but eventually he does, especially whenever he gets to camp and where all these demigods kind of train together and learn how to face the real world, especially learn how to fight monsters specifically, because whenever they go out of camp they're way more susceptible to monster interactions. But yeah, this is getting way too convoluted, but basically Percy is sent on a quest with some unlikely allies, and pretty much the book just follows their whole quest. It is so good though. Genuinely, if you are into Greek mythology, or even if you aren't, I truly think everyone would love this book. I've never met a single person who hasn't at least liked it. Like, I've never met a Percy Jackson hater, and I feel like that's kind of rare, especially for such a big series. And the Disney Plus series also came out, if you're familiar with that, and maybe not the books, but the books are just as incredible, even if not more incredible than the Disney Plus series. Definitely better than the movie. If you know, you know. But yes, so that was definitely a 5-star. And now, like I said, I was in a massive reading slump for the first half of April, so I didn't read as much as I normally do. However, I did read the second Percy Jackson book, The Sea of Monsters, in literally 2 days, just because I love the series so much. I know what I'm gonna get. It's a super fast-paced read, and it's just much easier to get through whenever you're kind of getting out of a reading slump, or you're in a reading slump, is to read more like middle school age books, especially whenever they're fantasy, because they're usually really easy to understand. And then there's what just happened? They're always really easy to understand and just fun reads. And so I read the second book, of course, 5 stars once again. It's just like, I love the series, you know what I'm saying? The whole series is 5 stars. I think only 1 out of the whole series is a 4-star for me, maybe 2, but pretty much every book in that series is 5 stars, even as an adult reading it. If you haven't read Percy Jackson, please do, because it is such an incredible series. And then I actually read the third book immediately after reading the second one, which is The Titan's Curse, Percy Jackson and the Titan's Curse. I loved it so much. This one is more of a 4.5, just because certain characters weren't involved in it as much as I wanted them to be, and I just missed them a lot. And as dumb as that may sound, that's honestly why the rating isn't a full 5 stars, even though 4.5 is definitely an amazing review, just because I really missed these characters and I wanted to read about them, and whenever they weren't on the page, I don't know, it just felt a little bit empty. But again, still an incredible book. Highly recommend the whole Percy Jackson series. All of the Percy Jackson books are really amazing, honestly, but especially whenever all the characters that I have grown to love and appreciate through the years are all together as one and as a team. It makes my heart so incredibly happy. That was all of the Percy Jackson books that I read this month. And now we can move on to the last? Yeah. So now we can move on to the last book that I read in April, which was, of course, Powerless. Now, I don't want to give too many thoughts on this because I am filming a reading vlog for it and one other book, which I'll talk about in a different video, because that video is coming out very soon. I just have to finish the second book that I was doing, and then I'll edit it and it'll be uploaded. But I don't want to give too much away, like spoil my thoughts for you guys, because I talk a lot about this book in that video, and you probably can already kind of guess my thoughts if you've seen any of my shorts regarding this. But basically, I loved it, you know, like the hype for this book was definitely real. I understood completely where everyone was coming from, and I thought that this book was going to be like way spicier than it was. There was literally no spice in this book, but the tension, like The fact that Lauren Roberts wrote this book and these characters with this amount of attention at 16 years old is so crazy to me. Like, where do you get the talent? Where do you get the skills to write a book like this? And if you don't know what this book is about because you somehow are living under a rock and don't have BookTok, no, but seriously, this book has been everywhere. Every time I open my TikTok or YouTube, it's like powerless, 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 but I'm not complaining, especially after reading the book because I loved it so much. Basically, this book is about this kingdom. I think it's called Ilya, I-L-Y-A. I think Ilya, I'll just say that. But it follows our main character, Payden. I'll just pronounce her name as Pay for now because it's easier to understand. But in this kingdom, there are it's kind of like a pyramid of levels of magic, and people that don't have magic are obviously at the bottom because the king like hates people without magic. And I honestly don't really know how to describe this book because there's so many different aspects of it. So I'm literally just going to read you the summary and then I'll give you more of my thoughts. But only the extraordinary belong in the kingdom of Ilya, the exceptional and the elites. The elites have possessed powers for decades gifted to them by the plague, while those born ordinary are just that, banished from the kingdom of Ilya and shunned from society. No one knows this better than Payden Gray, an ordinary posing as a psychic to help blend in with the elites. But when she unwittingly saves one of Ilya's princes, Kai Azir, love him, she's thrown into the purging trials, a brutal competition showcasing the elite's powers. If the trials and the opponents within them don't kill her, the prince she's fighting feelings for will, if he discovers what Payden is, completely ordinary. Now, if that summary alone doesn't entice you, let me just give you my reasons why I love this book. A, the writing is incredible. B, the tension out of this world as we've discussed. C, the characters are so good. Pei and Kai are like genuinely in my top 10, if not top 5 favorite book characters of all time now. Like, I love them so much. Also, Adina, I love her. We need to protect her. I am very, very excited for the second book. I think it's actually just a novella, but the second book in the whole trilogy to come out. I think by the time this video is uploaded, actually, the new novella might be out, but it's called Powerful, and it's Adina's story. Adina is a side character in this book. She's Pei's best friend. She's so lovable. Like, genuinely, the characters in this book give me the feeling I had whenever I read Six of Crows for the first time. Just like genuine love for characters and wishing them the best and finding everything that they do hilarious, even if it really isn't. But you know, that's just what good writing is genuinely making a book enjoyable. The whole reading experience I had was incredible. I read this in 3 days. I just devoured it. I loved it. I was engrossed. I stayed up till 4 a.m. to finish it. So I don't want to give my star rating, even though it's probably kind of obvious by now, but I will save that in my like more thought out, detailed thoughts in the reading vlog that's gonna be coming out very, very soon. So check that out to get more of my thoughts on Powerless. But with that, you guys, that is all the books that I read in April. I believe I read 5. Again, not too many. I usually read about 10 or 11. But it's also like I said, the reading slump, it just kind of got to me. Like, I did not want to read. You couldn't make me read. It was just not a good time. But you know what? Percy Jackson is always there to get you out of reading slump. And I will forever be grateful for Rick Riordan for creating that masterpiece of a series. And I just had a great reading month overall, even if it wasn't as many books as, you know, like some booktubers are reading out there nowadays. Because whenever I see those videos and they're like, I read 30 books in whatever month, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, am I a failure? Am I a failure as a reader, as a booktuber? Like, no. But then again, you kind of feel like pressure to read a lot, even if, you know, you're maybe not in the right mindset for it, if you have things going on in your personal life like I do. And I haven't touched too much on that on this channel, but like, I have had a lot of things that have been taking up my time, and so I haven't had as much time to read. And because of that, you know, like, I'm obviously not gonna have as many books to show you for this type of video, but hopefully next month, May, will be a much better reading month as far as quantity as well as quality, because I'd rather read like quality books over quantity, but then again, I just love reading books in general. But yeah, I had a great reading month overall. I definitely preferred the quality over the quantity of books this month, because even though I did have 1 3-star, the rest were 4 and above, which for me is really, really good. Even though 3 of them were rereads, it doesn't really matter, because what matters to me is the reading experience. And overall this month, the latter half of the month out of my reading slump, it was a great reading experience, and I'm really happy with what I read. I'm hoping to read a lot more in May now that I'm out of my reading slump. But as always, thank you guys so much for watching. Of course, leave me what books you read in April in the comments so we can chat, discuss. Maybe I've read some of them. I'd love to hear your thoughts, whether you had a great reading month or a bad reading month. But yeah, just let me know. My socials are always in the description box if you ever want to follow me anywhere else, like TikTok, Instagram, whatever. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you have an amazing day, and I will see you book besties later. Oh, and be sure to stay tuned for the reading vlog as well as my May TBR video. They're coming very, very soon. All right, love you guys. Bye.